Paige Bailey noticed that the boy who lives next door always is outside all day. Whenever he wasn't biking, he would skate or chat with boys his age. The boy acted like most kids do, but when it was time to go home for dinner, he was the only one who stayed outside. He didn't look unhappy and would just move his shoulders and ride his bike alone, wearing his hat backwards. Paige noticed something was wrong and she wanted to investigate. She put on her coat and hat and went for a walk to the local police station one evening. She went up to the person at the desk and said hello. "Hello, officer, good morning," she spoke happily. The man was surprised when he saw someone who didn't look sad at the police station. He smiled, but he felt unsure. "Hello, ma'am," he greeted. "How can I help you?" Paige moved her head from side to side. "Officer, tell me if I'm mistaken, but in the past, people would come to the police if something seemed wrong. Currently, something doesn't feel right, even though there isn't any criminal activity happening." The police officer was confused and didn't know what to do, so he called over another police officer named Officer John Leon. John brought Paige to a room where officers eat. Then, he had her sit and asked her to tell him everything. She started by saying that there isn't much to say. There is a boy named Seth Martin who is very good. He never misses a day of school. But when it's time to have dinner, he stays alone on the street. She stopped to listen to what the officer had to say, but he stayed quiet and didn't interrupt, which made her keep talking. "I'm thinking that maybe he doesn't go home because something bad is there waiting for him or because there's no one at home. We agree that he is too young to be by himself." John thought for a bit before he talked after she said something. "I think there is something wrong here, Mrs. he said Bailey. Don't worry, I won't stop until I find the truth." The policeman went to Seth's school and found out that Seth never missed classes and finished his work early. Seth's teachers thought he was a quiet and humble student. Seth's co-workers liked him and thought he was good at playing games, but they heard he never asked them to come over to his house. None of his friends had ever been in his room before. The principal of the school said that Seth came to town with his mom from Alabama 3 months ago. Linda was Seth's mom. She was nice and worked hard to raise her 13-year-old son by herself. She was doing a good job. Officer John went to visit Seth's home right away once he found out their school was going to close. A man named Seth, who was getting taller, opened the door and stood in front of John so he couldn't see inside the house. "Hello, officer," the boy said seriously. "Hi there, boy," John said with a smile. "My name is Officer John Leon. Is your mom here?" Seth looked at John with suspicion. "He said that his mom is not home right now." "Okay," said John. "Can I come in for a little while?" "I want to make sure you have permission to look," Seth said firmly. The officer was surprised and said, "No, this is not a crime investigation. My mom and I love watching Law and Order. I learned from the show that you cannot come into my house without legal paperwork called a warrant, even if you ask." John moved his head from side to side. "I'm not looking to cause problems, Seth. I just want to make sure you're doing okay." The boy shouted, "Everything is okay. Why can't it be? Sometimes kids don't want to go home for dinner because they're scared. Maybe something is wrong." John said kindly, "I want you to know that you can always talk to me if there is anything wrong." Seth turned red, then he explained, "I like riding on the street when there are fewer people around." "That's it." John moved his head up and down. "I understand how you feel. When I'm out patrolling late and no one else is around, it feels really nice." Seth was happy and showed it with a smile on his face. "That's right. And when our mom is not here." "Is your mother not here?" asked John. Seth found a lot of valuable things and he was sure about it. The boy lowered his head and replied sadly, "Okay. My friend had to go to Alabama many times recently because her granny's leg was broken and her grandpa has Alzheimer's." After saying this, he stood up straight. "I am doing well by myself. I see you're Seth, and you're good. Can I come in?" John said, "Is it okay with you?" Seth hesitated but then allowed John into the house. John noticed there wasn't much furniture. Seth only had a mattress on the floor in his room to sleep on. Seth said that Mom was planning to buy furniture, but then Grandma got sick and she couldn't go. "Everything is fine," said Officer John, stopping him. "I get it. Your mom can't do it, and I don't want her to get in trouble. I can make your dinner every evening while you are staying with Mrs. Is this Bailey's home?" The boy didn't want to agree, but he did. Then, every day for a week, the officer came to check on him after work. The officer cooked dinner, checked his schoolwork, and made sure he went to sleep at Paige's house next door. Seth said to John that their mom is coming tomorrow. And now, she is coming back to her home for good. John smiled and said, "That's good. Do you want to assist me in planning a surprise for her?" "Unexpected thing?" Seth questioned. "What surprise is it?" John took him outside and showed him a big truck parked in front of the boy's house. It had many gifts like a bed for Jack, a TV, table and chairs, and other things that John thought women would like. When Seth's mom came back from Alabama the next day, the house was made very comfortable. Seth's mother thought she had entered the wrong house because everything looked very different. As she was going to leave, Seth, John, and Paige surprised her by shouting "Welcome home," and suddenly appearing from the boys' room. Seth's mom met the officer who told her everything. Now, Seth and Linda have two new friends who will help them.